Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'll be doing a book review for This Poison Heart by Kaylnn Bayron, who's also the author of Cinderella is Dead, which is clearly right behind me right here. And so let's go ahead and get started with this book review. Okay, so as you all possibly know, or if you're new to my channel, welcome. I love Kaylnn Bayron. I love her writing. I literally loved Cinderella is Dead so much I even marked it down, annotated everything, and this book came out last year, and to the point where I pre-ordered this book because I was so excited, especially when it had a retelling about Cinderella. So I was able to get this pre-ordered and had it signed by her, and so I just fell in love with her first book, and so I wanted to continue on and read her second book, This Poison Heart. Now this is the Owl Crate exclusive edition. I also have pre-ordered the original edition as well. So I have both editions, both signed by the author. But I love her so much. So I really don't care if I have two different editions because her writing is amazing. So for this particular book, I was really just enthralled with it. I love the writing. I love the characters in it. I love the Greek mythology part of it. I'm a huge fan of Greek mythology, and adding Black women in the picture of Greek mythology is absolutely amazing and astonishing, and I'm glad that Kaylnn Bayron had done this because I don't think I've read any of the books like that. So this book is featuring our main character, Bree, which is short for Briseis. And if you don't know who Briseis is, she is pretty much was like the prisoner of Achilles. And there's people where their stories mixed up where Briseis was Achilles concubine, his wife or whatever, but that was never the case. Achilles was actually in love with Patroclus, but Briseis was his reward. So she was pretty much like his prisoner in a way, right? So for this one, this is completely different. So this is Briseis. She lives in Brooklyn, and she has these powers where she can grow plants and poisonous plants. And so as we get into the book, we start to realize her, pretty much her dynamic with her family. She has two mothers, one she calls Mom, one she calls Mo, which later on in the book, she pretty much describes it or explains why she calls her Mo, which is short for Mom, but she made it a little bit easier for herself where she called her mom and her other mom Mo, and she was adopted. So she has two mothers who she really loves and who she just really enjoys, spending time with them. And so they own pretty much their own flower store, and Briseis helps them with the arrangements and everything like that. And sometimes she helps do the flowers with her powers. But in the beginning of the book, she has a hard time controlling her powers. And so her moms try to give her the bare minimum of what to do as far as growing plants and what have you. And so Briseis, she really just wants to know more about plants, botany, I think that's how you pronounce it. I hope I'm saying that right. She just enthralled with plants and wanted to study more about plants in college and what have you. And so since she's in Brooklyn, she secretly was planting plants in a park. I think it was Lafayette Park. I forget which. I think it was Lafayette, somewhere in Brooklyn. And she was planting plants, and they were poisonous. Her moms didn't know about it. And so she just minding her own business because she did have friends, Gabby, and then there was another person, I forget what his name is, and they literally just fell out, and she had no friends. She was pretty much alone, and she couldn't share, what her powers because she was scared. She didn't know what they would do, how they would react. So she was alone. And then out of nowhere, a lawyer came and said that, "Hello, are you Briseis Green or whatever?" She said yes, and she's like, "Oh yes, well I'm here to tell you that your aunt has passed away and has passed down her estate to you. Everything is paid for. You don't have to worry about anything." So her moms and Briseis are like, "What?" And this came to a perfect time for them because as they were trying to get the flower store together, they're realizing their cost, and where they were living was gentrification. So all the prices were going up where they were living, and they just could not afford rent. It was just really ridiculous. So as this opportunity came to them about this estate that Briseis' aunt had passed down to her, They're like, okay, let's go. And so it's all the way out in the country it's called Rhinebeck. Um, and so it's outside of the city, and it's 2 hours away from Brooklyn. So they travel there and they see this huge house with like 40 acres of land. And they were just amazed. And when they looked into the rooms and stuff like that, they saw like there was an apothecary full of plants and stuff like that. And get this, her aunt's name is Circe. Right? So, and then I felt like for this book, for Perseus, she felt like this was a great opportunity to try to know about more of her family, her mom and her family and her background. And she was astonishingly starting to get all that information as the lawyer passed down the keys to Perseus. Perseus was able to open up one of the secret chambers in the house, and she was able to read letters by her aunt. And she was telling her all the secrets and stuff like that. There's a garden, and she realized that they were caretakers of a garden for their apothecary, and there was also a poisonous garden that they took care of. And she soon realized that she was immune to poisonous flowers as well. And then she met this boy named Carter, who works at a bookshop, which is the lawyer's son. And she was enthralled with him, and they were just starting to hang out and everything like that. And then out of nowhere, one night, outside of Perseus's, new home, there's a woman outside with looked like gray hair and stuff like that, and she was scared. And the lawyer said, yes, a lot of weird folks will be coming around and, coming around to this house or whatever. So just be prepared and be used to that type of thing. So one day, a man came to the house. And he is known for an alchemist. He's like, and she's like, are you like a wizard? I was like, he's like, you could say that. And he knew about Perseus and her powers, but he didn't want to like say it out loud. But he's like, your powers are way beyond what you think you know how to use your powers for. He was just giving her hints there, around there about their conversation about the apothecary and whatnot. So she was even more enthralled with it. And then she started seeing portraits of Medea, which is a goddess, or I believe. I really don't know much about Medea because they really don't talk about her. It's Medea or Medea. And her portraits all over, and Perseus is trying to figure out who is this woman that this portrait, like her portraits are everywhere. And then her mom, she starts to know more information about her mom, and her mom's name was Selene. So as she started venturing around the house, she started knowing certain secrets that they were keeping, within the family, no one else knew about. And then she visited this garden, and next thing you know, she visited the secret chamber where it's called the Abyssus Heart. And this is and so she was trying to figure out more information about this heart, about this plant. So one of her moms, Mo, reached out to one of her friends that is a professor in college who knows more about Greek mythology, and pretty much she broke down the story of Greek mythology. I would actually like to read it to you because it's very interesting, and I'm trying to remember what pages it was on because it breaks down better on how I would describe it to you. But pretty much Hecate, I don't know. I really want to it's complicated. Like Greek mythology is very complicated. So I'm going to try to read this out loud to you. I know it might be a little bit spoilery, but I think it's pretty informational because of this book review, and it gives more information on how Perseus and her family are descendants of Hecate. So let me see if I can find this page and then share with you pretty much I think I found it. So I think it is. So it says, let me see. I don't think this one is it. I think it's another one. Okay. So it says right here. So it says, hello, Perseus. And this is from the professor of Perseus's mom knows about her friend that is a professor. So it says, hello, Perseus. Angie told me you are thinking of majoring in botany when you get to college. But if you change your mind and want to venture into classical studies, please let me know. You seem to have a passion for it. As for your questions, I'll try to address them in order. So question 1, yes, I charge a consulting fee, but not for this conversation. I cannot express how touched I was that you understand the value of picking another person's brain. You are a gem, truly. 2, Oftentimes, the stories we think of as purely legend are based, at least in part, on real-world events. There are stories, for example, of the priestesses of Apollo and the Oracle of Delphi. Many believe these were tall tales, but we found the actual temple where the Pythias sat to give her predictions. We've uncovered the palace at Knossos where King Minos ruled. His wife Pasiphae was the mother of the Minotaur in Greek mythology. We know the location of Troy, where the Trojans sent their famed horse full of invaders. Alexander the Great made a pilgrimage to the tomb of Achilles so that he could pay his respects. This is a fact. These stories are grounded in truths that have been exaggerated and distorted over time. It says 3. As for Medea specifically, there is less known about her beyond what the classic stories tell, but in my own research, I have found evidence that she was a real person and that her origin story may have predated the Greek mythology by hundreds of years. She was indeed described as a witch of sorceress, but not like the witches we think of today. Think of her more as a priestess, someone initiated into the mysteries of a certain set of beliefs. Most priestesses were thought to be chosen by the gods or goddesses they served. In Medea's case, she was a devotee of the goddess Hecate, but Hecate only arrives in Greek mythology in the 5th century BCE, which means that, like so many other Greek myths, she originated somewhere else much, much earlier, long before the Olympians, for example, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades come onto the scene. Hecate was shoehorned into Greek storytelling when people became aware of her later on, but one of her earliest mentions is alongside Medea. They were always linked, implying some deeper connection that has yet to be discovered. It says Medea is said to have killed her own brother in an attempt to avoid being married off by her tyrannical father, who happened to be the son of the god Helios. She was said to have been cursed in some way because of this. What I know for certain is that her legend has been twisted, retold, and reimagined so many times that original elements have been obscured. I don't believe she killed her own children, as always in Euphrates' play does she do this. There is some evidence to support my theory. It says there is a folio in the Vatican archives that a colleague of mine had access to about 20 years ago. It's an assortment of documents that he believed were saved from the Library of Alexandria. These ancient, priceless relics were in pretty rough shape. One of them was the Medea story, and that version predated the stories we know now by centuries. There was even some talk about it being composed by someone who knew her. My colleague had planned to decipher the ancient Greek and try to mend the document, but his access to the archives were unexpectedly and without explanation revoked. There were rumors that the document had been misplaced, which is double speak for stolen or destroyed. I lean toward destroyed because it is nearly impossible to remove anything from the Vatican archives without being caught. I'm attaching the only known image of the document. I have had it analyzed, but to no avail. It's a poor quality photograph and impossible to see clearly enough to decipher. But the photo is proof this narrative existed, and that it is a tantalizing fact in and of itself. I hope this helps to answer some of your questions. Mythology is a murky world. It's much like unraveling a centuries-long game of telephone. The messages we see and hear today may be nothing like what was actually intended. Please email with any further questions. Best, Professor Kent. So pretty much Briseis was trying to figure out who Medea is, who was Hecate, stuff like that. She never got a clear answer of who they were. And so next thing you know, people were trying to pretty much attack her, trying to capture her. And that's where the girl who was outside of her home with the gray hair comes to rescue Briseis, and her name is Marie. And Marie is pretty much a longtime friend of Briseis' family and her aunts. And Marie, it's crazy because I predicted it. I'm like, Marie must be, old. But Briseis never caught that, and so Briseis was, and so Marie, she looks like she's 17 years old, which she's posing as a 17-year-old. So Briseis is also enthralled with her, and Briseis actually likes her. And, she believes she's really cute and everything like that. So she's just trying to get at her a little bit, But then as time goes on, Briseis realizes that Marie is actually older than what she appears to be. She's like 300 and something years old, I believe. I forget the exact age. Because her Marie's best friend was Briseis's aunt, I think, like great aunt or something like that. And her great aunt had passed away in like the 1840s, I believe. So, and she said, Marie said, Astrea, which is Briseis's great aunt, passed away after she saved Marie's life. And so now Marie has this long-lasting, everlasting, she's immortal. And the reason why she's immortal is because, well, the Briseis found the Empress's heart. Now, Briseis actually starts to get a better picture of everything. So Hecate, she is the mother of Medea. And Medea is also the sister of Abyssertis, which is the heart, that the plant that she is supposed to protect and that everyone is trying to get a hold of. That's why she is being attacked on a regular basis, you know, by men in black, to have that eternal, immortal life. And then she realized she is the descendants of Hecate, Briseis. And so that's why her family are the ones chosen to protect this particular plant. And so next thing you know, the lawyer came by who said, you know what, I'm sorry, I found some documentation saying that there was back taxes that your aunt didn't pay, so you have to leave this house before I call the police. And she's like, what? Why? So Briseis was doing most of her own research, went to a few banks in that area, then came across a bank saying like, no, this is wrong. These documents aren't real. And Briseis was like, what? So this lawyer wasn't who she was, who she says she was. She was pretty much, it was a ruse this whole time. Next thing you know, as Briseis rushes back home, the lawyer, Mrs. Redmond, that's her name, comes, and she pretty much has a knife to Briseis's mom's neck, and she says, take me to the Basistra's heart. So going towards the Basistra's heart, it's nothing but poisonous plants, but Briseis is immune, and so she was worried about her mother's safety. So Briseis made sure to control the plants as they were walking through this poisonous garden. So as they're doing this and they get to the Basistra's heart, Briseis grabs it, and it's starting to make her weak. Like, she's immune to it, but it makes her weak because it's a very, very poisonous plant. And so she pretty much carries it all the way back to the house, and Mrs. Redmond stabs her mother into, I believe, her arm or her side, and she's bleeding out. And so then again, next thing you know, this big figure comes into the house, a huge figure, and it is Hecate. She's like 8-9 feet tall, and she pretty much takes Redmond and squeezes her to death with plants. And so as this happens, Hecate talks to Briseis and tells her about her great family that she has and stuff like that, about her responsibilities that she has to uphold for her family. And Briseis is also saddened because her mother is dead. Mrs. Redmond killed her pretty much, where when she stabbed her, she pretty much was bleeding out. And so Hecate said, you know what? I know she's dead, but I can give you one opportunity. I can give you this, because she has to go to the underworld with me. But you have an opportunity, and within a month, grab a hold of the 6 pieces of the Basistra's heart. So she has 2 of the pieces, because one piece was for Marie, because Astrea, Briseis's great aunt, saved her with that heart, which is why she's immortal. So that's one piece. And then she has the other piece as well that Mrs. Redmond was trying to get a hold of. So she has 2 pieces. So she has, what, 4 more to go? 4 more pieces to go, and she has to get that within a month to save her mother. But until then, her mother is officially dead right now and is going to be sent to the underworld with Hecate, and Hecate is going to be taking her mother with her. But that is where that comes into play at the very end of it. And we realize that Carter, which is Mrs. Redmond's son, was also a traitor, and Briseis felt like, wow, my first friend that I actually made here was actually a liar. And so he disappears. And so that's when we come in for the second book of the series, which I think is going to be coming out next year or the following year. So it's like a series. I believe there's either 2, or either it's a duology or a trilogy. So there's either 2 books or 3 books. I'm not for sure, but it continues on with the story. And like I said, the Greek mythology was amazing. I love Briseis. I loved her dynamic with her mothers. I thought it was really cool. especially when they were talking about her Mo and how she cannot cook breakfast to save her life. She can cook everything else but breakfast. And I find that weird because I feel like breakfast is the easiest thing to make, but maybe not. But I really, really enjoyed this this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because I really love the pace. I really couldn't put this book down because I really want to know what happened next. I want to know more about Briseis. I want to know more about her family because there's like a big mystery. So like I said, I really enjoyed this book. If you haven't picked this up, I suggest you do so because it's really good. And there's also going to be another book after this, so there's going to be more to come, and we'll get to see more of Briseis and Marie and Hecate, Medea, all her family. And then also at the very end, we're thinking that her aunt, the one that passed down the estate, died, right? She was actually missing. And so next thing you know, at the very end of the book, Cersei pops up and she's like, wow, Briseis, you look just like your mother and whatnot. And Briseis was just like in awe, like, wow, this is my aunt right in front of me. So yeah, that's where it ends. It ends on a cliffhanger. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why did it have to end this way? But you know what? It's all good. Now I'm just ready for the second book to come out so I can finally read it. But that is, you guys, that is my review for the book. I know it was long. I know it was like spoilery. I do apologize for that. It was just really hard to describe this book without trying to explain certain things. Like I said, a 5 out of 5 stars, and you definitely should read it, and I recommend you reading it. But like I said, that is it, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this book review. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.